that is all political abuse. All I can say about that is mark my words, put stars by it, and in 2 months or so, come back and tell me if I didn't make good on my word. There is a lot more reporting to be done that shows that we are not just under a system of mass surveillance, that it is not just these occasional political dissidents who are being abused, whose rights are being abused by the system of surveillance, but it is very much similar to the abuses of the 1960s in terms of people being targeted because of their political opinions and because of their controversial political activism. And my hope and my belief is that as we do more of that reporting and as people see the scope of the abuse as opposed to just the scope of the surveillance, they will start to care a lot more, and ultimately that's our job as journalists, is to make people understand why they should care.
I'd like to point out one key point there that you made is the intelligence community, the sort of pro-NSA, pro-surveillance senators and congressmen out there who champion these programs. They do it on very narrow terms. They say not that we're not doing this, but that we're not looking at it. And I think that's actually the distinguishing factor that makes this worse than the 1960s, than the 1970s, than previous eras of surveillance, is the fact that we are all actively being monitored. All of our interceptions, this call right now, is being collected and indexed by the NSA. They've got the metadata, they've got the IP pairs, they see the to and from places, they've got the routing, they can intercept it, they can man the middle, they can try to break it back with talking. But the key is, that happens programmatically even without targeting. They say we don't target Americans, but the reality is they also say we're not collecting Americans communications, but this is false. This is a key point that I think a lot of people haven't understood, is they don't use those words the way you do. They are collecting those calls in normal English, but they don't call that collection, they call that ingestion, they call that interception, they call that analysis, they don't call it collection. The problem is, they do that because the secret court, the FISA court, the rubber stamp court, lets them get away with this. The way our laws were written, what the NSA is doing today is forbidden. It is unlawful and it is unconstitutional. However, these things simply aren't allowed. If you look at the law and you look at what they're doing, it's not possible. There's no argument to be made. However, what they've done is they've decided not to take that argument to the public because they know they can lose. They asked these authorities in the 1990s to be able to intercept and decrypt the backdoor of every cryptographic communication. The public and the Congress said no. It did not survive public scrutiny. So what they did post-September 11th was George Bush, Vice President Dick Cheney, and his counsel, his legal counsel, the Vice President, David Addington, got together and they created this program called Stellar. They did it on the president's authority without any legal authorization at all. They said, we're just going to do this and nobody's going to stop us. Eventually, it culminated into a conflict where the acting attorney general threatened to resign. He said, this is illegal.